Monster!
It's morphin' time!
Wings of silver, birds of steel.
Hello, this is Silent here, and welcome back to another Silverhawks review. Today we're taking a look at Wave 1. Now, this is the second video. If you have not seen my Wave 2 review, go check it out. I cover a lot of the baseline stuff with these figures. Wave 1 got delayed and shipped after Wave 2, which is why we're covering it second. And Wave 3 is going to be off in the future. So go check out Wave 2, come back, watch Wave 1, and you'll be all caught up with the reviews. But if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit subscribe and notification bell because I cover Silverhawks, Thundercats, and all kinds of other cool toy stuff. So you want to check out the other videos. But now we're going to take a look at Quicksilver, Steelheart, Buzzsaw, and Armored Monstar. Alright, so we'll start with Quicksilver. Now Quicksilver, of course, the leader of the Silverhawks. He's got a similar box to the previous Silverhawks from Wave 1. Big old shiny front. And inside there is Quicksilver. Looking pretty good. We will take a look, of course, at all of his details and his accessories, but let's take a quick look at the back of the packaging with his kind of scratched up back here, but there's the artwork and his bio. Quicksilver, leader of the Silverhawks. Quicksilver is the leader of the Silverhawks, and he reports directly to Stargazer. He is the human partner of the cyborg bird Tallyhawk, a human law enforcement officer modified into a cyborg to withstand the effects of hyper-travel throughout space. This grants him enhanced physical abilities such as strength, agility, and speed. He has hawk-like faceplate that he can lower to cover his face while flying or fighting, as well as built-in wings for atmospheric and space flying/gliding. He has a built-in laser in his arm located in the blue band for combat, and retractable talons in his feet for attacking while flying. So let's take a look at the leader of the Silverhawks, Quicksilver. So here he is, the leader of the Silverhawks, at least in the field, Quicksilver. Looking pretty cool. You saw him tip back. That's what you call action figures. Yeah, the only thing I'll say on the joints right now is the ankles cause him to kind of tip a little bit. So you want to like just rotate his legs out like this at the thigh. Boom, stands good. So first things first, let's talk about the controversial face. I don't know, it looks fine to me. This is a thing that keeps coming up with this line as I see people outraged about a face, and when they see it like in a convention booth or something. And then I get it in hand and I'm like, looks fine to me. I don't really have a problem with it. You know, these are cartoon based. These are not like Four Horsemen hyper-realistic detail face. So cool with me. I don't know, it looks good to me. The silver looks nice. I think, you know, again, a lot of people seem to have been expecting like vac metalized figures because of the old Kenner toys when Super 7 was like, we're doing the cartoon designs. This looks like the cartoon design to me. It's got a nice shine to it. Once again, you know, we've heard, you know, we had to delay it so they can get the paint just right. I mean, it looks good to me. I don't know what stages of paint development they were going through, but it looks fine to me. I'm kind of going to just end up repeating a lot of what I said with Wave 2, since this is Wave 1, you know, release second, but a lot of what I said with Wave 2 is like, I think they look good. They look nice to me. So overall, I mean, body-wise, sculpt-wise, looks pretty solid. Articulation-wise is where he suffers, much like most of the figures. Ball-jointed neck pivots up. As you can see, it's cut properly, so you can look forward while flying. You got shoulders that move out, shoulders that move 360, bicep swivel, elbow bend that only goes that far, kind of limited, slight elbow rotation, wrist swivel. And then you've got the absolutely useless upper torso cut. There's no crunch at all. It's just solid. And then a nice straight waist cut. Hips that move out. Hips that move a little bit forward, a little bit back. Basically useless thigh swivel, except for the fact that here he'll fall over, here he won't. So, you know, it is useful in some way. Single joint knee goes to 90. Rotation at the knee. Ankle that pivots a little forward back and a lot left right. This is where his stability is sort of falling apart. But honestly, like considering, you know, Super 7 and everything that they've done, and just toys in general these days, he's not too bad. It's just getting him to stand, that's the trick. But once you got him standing, it looks pretty good. Now before we talk about his other accessories, they usually don't pack accessories on the figure, but Tallyhawk's control panel is in fact already packed on the figure. This can be removed pretty easily. You just pop the hand, you pull it off if you don't want his control panel for his bird on there. Luckily, it didn't like scrape any of the paint. You know, that's why I usually would leave these things packed separate, but it looks pretty nice. I've already forgotten which direction it goes. Probably this way. That looks about right. But it's painted all the way around. Looks pretty good, and you can have him posed where he's ready to call Tallyhawk. Hands-wise, he comes with 2 fists, 2 gesturing open hands, 2 flat-palmed hands, and then 2 grip hands, which don't hold anything he comes with, but all I can think of is having him in a certain particular ship position to be riding in. I don't know, yet again, just like with Wave 2, they're future-proof in the hands. I don't know if that means we're ever going to get anything that he's going to use those hands on. So while he has his neutral expression head, he of course has his cool flip-down visor for flying. Now, of course, while Quicksilver looks cool with his full helmet, of course we need to swap out his arms to give him those wings. So much like we saw with Steel Will, you just lift the arm, pull it out, comes out pretty easily. There is some paint around the joint, and then you just pop in the new arm, and then you pop in a hand. You can use any of the hands, which I do like that interchangeability is there. Same with the other arm. Pop in the arm, pop in the hand. I like to use these hands just because they seem appropriate for the flying pose. So you can see, once again, it doesn't really like peg into the body. It just kind of rests in place. But once you got that, you can tip his head forward. And you know what? That's a pretty convincing flying pose to put Quicksilver in. Like, he can be gliding in with his wings and his helmet. And it has enough clearance so that it looks like he's looking up, though not straight up. You at least got something good there. So pretty cool. I do like the wings overall. Now, of course, just like when we saw with Steel Will, the actual shoulders can take these effect parts. And these effect parts are beams with these little blasters at the end. What I didn't realize as much in the Steel Will part is that they actually can take the little blast parts off the end. So you don't want the little like explosion effect, and you want just the straight laser. You have the option for the straight laser. And of course, just like before, you get 2 of these and they go straight into the shoulder, and then you can adjust the shoulder joint separate from the rest of the arm. So if you want it more forward, angled down, angled up, you just adjust on that axis with the wings. So pretty cool. And you have, again, the option of removing that blast effect. So pretty cool. I mean, this is pretty standard stuff, I would say. Most of the Silverhawks are going to have this sort of accessory layout. But of course, all the Silverhawks figures come with a separate bird. So let's take a look at his bird. So here we have Tallyhawk, arguably the most famous of the fighting birds, simply because he is in the opening, he appears the most, he is the main character, or the lead character's bird. I mean, all the Silverhawks are main characters, but Quicksilver is the team leader, so of course Tallyhawk is seen the most. What's really cool is we got a little perched Tallyhawk. You can see his head turns left and right. You've got his hips that move forward back, and then he's actually got like a knee joint, I guess, so you can adjust and pose him. He stands pretty good on his own. And then we got the flying Tallyhawk, which he actually has an open mouth expression, which I think is super cool. Definitely makes him more distinctive. And you can see that there actually is separation between the feathers, so be careful, because I think those could break if you apply too much force. And then once again, his legs articulate the same way, though they're a lot looser on this one for mine. I still can get him balanced, it just, he falls over a little bit easier. Now, you can try to perch him on the arm of Quicksilver. And I do mean try, because there is no alternate arm for Quicksilver or any clips for Tallyhawk, and he is kind of heavy. So if you get it just right, and you don't have Quicksilver start to topple as well, you can just barely, there we go. We've pulled it off. I am never displaying it like that. We're going to have to, let's see, tip his head up so he's looking up at, at Tallyhawk. It is doable with a lot of patience and a lot of luck, but stability-wise, it ain't happening. So Quicksilver was voiced by Peter Newman, who voiced Tigra, Bengali, and Monkeyan on Thundercats. So here is a comparison with all the Peter Newman characters we have so far. And then, of course, we had to have Quicksilver with Lion-O because these two share the same role in both shows, the leader of each of their teams. They look really nice together. So overall, Quicksilver's pretty cool, if not a little boring. He is kind of standard, here's your Silverhawk, you know? He is the team leader, but I don't think there's anything that makes him stand out that much. Like, okay, he comes with a bird. Well, everybody comes with a bird. Oh, he has wings. Everybody has wings. Oh, he has shoulder lasers. Everybody has shoulder lasers. His unique thing is the control device, the control panel for Tallyhawk. You know, Steel Will had a cool gun. Bluegrass has a guitar. As we'll see soon with Steelheart, she's got some uniqueness to her as well. You know, I think getting him as the third Silverhawk makes him a little bit less exciting. But overall, I mean, he's accurate to the show. There really is nothing more they could have included. It is pretty much everything that good old Quicksilver got. So, in general, stability issues aside, pretty cool figure, and if you are collecting Silverhawks, definitely an essential to the collection. Next up, we have Steelheart, which is nice because she pairs well with Steel Will from Wave 2. There is Steelheart looking super awesome. Love this character. On the back, you can see her artwork and her bio. Steelheart, Silverhawk Sergeant. Steelheart, a human law enforcement officer modified into a cyborg to withstand the effects of hypertravel in space. This is weird because it's like Steelheart, comma, and then describes her, but then doesn't really go into another sentence. Like, you know, usually there's a comma and then it goes to, the punctuation's off. So Steelheart, comma, a human law enforcement officer modified into a cyborg to withstand the effects of hypertravel through space. Right? That's pretty long, but still, comma. This grants her enhanced physical abilities such as strength, agility, and speed. That is one complete thought. You know what? I'm just not going to harp on it anymore. Anyways, she has a hawk-like faceplate that covers her face while flying or fighting, as well as built-in wings for atmospheric and space flying or gliding. She has built-in laser and arm for combat, and retractable talons in her feet for while attacking and while flying. Steelheart is very intelligent and level-headed. She always knows how to get herself out of danger. Her technical skills are also highly valuable in keeping the Silverhawks technology ahead of the Limbo mob. I just realized this is essentially like the same bio on both of these, except they changed like the first line here, mentions Tallyhawk, and then the human law enforcement officer part is like all of this. So like a human law enforcement officer, you know, this is not a complete thought either. What I'm saying is that these bios could be written a little better, but let's take a look at Steelheart herself. So here we have Steelheart. She is my favorite of the Silverhawks. Love the character. She's just so cool in the show. I love her different abilities and everything she's got. She is the one that gets them out of jams a lot of times, which is really, really cool. She is like the reverse damsel. And overall, figure-wise, and I don't know, kind of zoomed in right here, this is the part of the figure that doesn't quite gel for me. It feels like her shoulders are way too narrow. Here's a screen cap from the series where you can see she's got wider shoulders, like the shoulders kind of, it's not like a full hourglass, but like her shoulders are at least the width of her hips. Here it looks like the hips are a little bit wider than where the shoulders are. So it's not an exact like proportion part to it, and it's not like articulation was a factor because, well, all you get is this upper torso swivel, not really forward and back, and there is no waist. But yeah, it's just like the only like minor thing is I think her shoulders should have been a little bit wider. Other than that, when we're talking about the face sculpt, I think it's pretty solid. Just like with all of these, they are simpler, more cartoon-like designs, so you're not going to get like heavy detail, but I think the detail is good there. It's not too flat. It's got the nice, you know, shape to her eyes and everything there. So I think she looks pretty good. She, of course, has the one armband on this side with the metal arm, the one flesh arm here, and then the armband, or the leg band that matches that armband, which is pretty nice. Of course, she is the twin sister of Steel Will, who we got in Wave 2. So you can see the two of them together look really nice. I like that, you know, they have, each Silverhawk kind of has a unique shape to them, like character design-wise. But I like that they have these similarities. Like they have the armband on the leg, or the armband on the arm and the leg on the same side, and it's the opposite side as their sibling. And then same thing with the flesh arm is opposite here. But then they're about the same color, which is accurate. They should be the same color as they are the twins of the team. So you can see that they have kind of the same shade of blue going, or shades of blue. It does definitely look like they are matching, which is good because that's exactly what they need to be. So it's pretty cool to have the Steel twins together. I'm glad that one was in Wave 1, one was in Wave 2, even if we got Wave 2 first and then Wave 1. That way it kind of knocks out that portion of the team without putting them too far apart or putting them too close together, if you know what I mean. But let's take a look at the rest of Steelheart's accessories, because we've already covered Steel Will. Well, I guess before accessories, we should cover articulation. So she's got a ball-jointed neck here, a torso that swivels. It doesn't really left, right, or side to side or anything like that. Shoulders move out, shoulders 360, bicep swivel, elbow bend, elbow swivel, wrist in and out, wrist rotation. It's a 360 rotation. Hips that move out about that far. Hips that move forward about nothing. Hips that don't move back because of that. Knees that bend almost 90. Wait, can we go? Yep, we can go full 90 with that once you get past like the paint on the joint. Swivel at the knee. ankle that pivots forward and back and left and right. So pretty decent. She is restricted because she doesn't have the straight cut waist that the guys do, which is kind of unfortunate. But at least with her, compared to all the others, the shoulder joints hold in better than any of the other Silverhawks so far. Hands-wise, she comes with these relaxed open hands. Now, she does come with a pair of fists for brawling, though QC alert on my flesh fist for her. Here you can see that the actual joint was cut sort of off-center here, so I can't quite get it to go all the way down. I'm not really going to use the fists, but you can see how it doesn't move on the proper axis like this one does, where it moves in and out on that axis there. This just doesn't quite look right. So it was miscut. And then, of course, she comes with the flat palm hands, which is good for karate chops or flying. And then she comes with these two mysterious grip hands, which, again, I don't want to say anything, but just in case they did a certain vehicle named the Mirage, she could totally, oh no. So, the one downside to Steelheart compared to Quicksilver and Steel Will, her neck does not move up. It has the range of basically nothing in the up and down position. This will slightly improve in a moment, but if we were to get that hypothetical Mirage vehicle with these, she's going to be looking straight down at whatever is in front of her, because that ain't moving. So in terms of heads, she's got this nice neutral expression. Then she has her angry eyebrows, her getting stuff done expression. And then, of course, just like the others, she has the faceplate head. Now, this is great because, of course, you know, combat and stuff. This one does look up. I don't know why this one does compared to the others, but you can get, you know, it's not great, but, like, at least it tilts a little bit compared to the others, which, like, tilt almost nothing. Aha, I found the source of our problem. So on her normal unmasked heads, you can see that the actual socket is like super far down in the head, but then on the actual masked one, it's a lot shallower, so like it's not as deep. Like you can actually see that, like, we see where the number is. See there's like this carved out space and then the socket, whereas here the socket is right at the number. So that is why this head won't tilt, but this one will. So I wonder if we just kind of like half attach it. Can we get a little up and... I mean, we're going to get about that because, like, then the back of the hair is hitting the collar. But if you half attach her unmasked head, you can get kind of a forward position. It's not great, but that's why this head has better range, because, and heck, even there, that's better than actually socketing it down. You can just kind of rest it there. That is something I hope they don't repeat. Like, if it's going to be, you know, make sure it's shallow enough that, you know, because that's hard to, you know, I could put some putty stuff in there to get her head to tilt up if I want to. If we get a certain vehicle, I will. It's definitely, you know, not as deep, and that is why this has better range than both of these. All right, so let's, of course, do the wings. Now, with her, like I mentioned, her arm sockets stayed in a little better. It's because they have an extra tab, and I don't know if it's just because it didn't get muddled with paint, but she does have kind of a mushroom peg system, so that means once you plug it in, it stays in pretty good. So we got one wing there, and then we'll get the other wing. I do these on camera so you guys can see how the actual tolerance is in case you're wanting to get these, or in case you get another Super 7 figure that may have swappable arms. You're wondering how do they do it. There you go. But yeah, so I already applied the hands. Of course, those are same hand sockets. We'll get her kind of pivoted up. She doesn't look too bad flying. Like I said, this one gives her more neck range than the normal heads do. But she looks pretty good. I like the wing. You know, once again, it just kind of fits to the body. I feel like I'm saying a lot of the stuff I did with Quicksilver here. She has the same energy effects that Quicksilver and Steel will have. Silverhawks is fun because one of the main things in the show is that people just shoot lasers from random parts of their bodies. Makes it really tricky for action figures. That's why I think they put the laser ports only on the wings as opposed to putting them, because even though they can fire them without the wings exposed, you know, having swappable shoulders to go in, or swappable arms just to have those shoulders would be tricky. I'm sure if you really felt super heavy to mod it, you could just detach the bicep here and then attach the normal arm. But for me, I mean, if we're going to use shoulder lasers, we're flying with them. So there we go. Let's see if I can pop her ball joint off and then like rest it higher like I did. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. We got Steelheart flying in, shooting lasers, looking pretty cool. So next up we have our Fighting Hawk, which is Razor. Now Razor could be Steel Will's partner as well as Steelheart's, because Razor and Stronghold were flip-flopped in the initial debut episode, apparently. So we get Razor with Steelheart, which matches the original toys. It doesn't matter too much in the long run because I'm getting all of them. He's got a rotating neck, similar to the others. He actually has rotating legs, so you can kind of crouch up or extend down. And then the open wing one, which I always thought this is a really cool design with these plated wings. Once again, head should turn. Yeah, there we go. It's just a little stuck. And then the hips do move as well. Now, of course, there is feet designed to clip to an arm. Let's see if it actually clips to her arm. So hey, mission accomplished. This is actually the first one that will clip to an arm and not fall off. With the others, the arms were too thick. With her, it's perfect size. And yeah, Razor, it takes a lot of force to get them off of there. Now, if you want Steel Will's Bird Stronghold to stay on her arm, it will fit, except it's super heavy and like throws off her balance. So you can see we got it there. It's stable, but he's going to fall right off because he is a little bit back heavy. So now this is the segment where I compare the Silverhawks character to the Thundercats characters voiced by the same person. But Maggie Wheeler voiced Steelheart as well as Melodia in Silverhawk. She did not voice anybody in Thundercats. So I just brought out Cheetara and Pumyra. This Pumyra is still gigantic. Just to have a comparison here. Fun fact about Maggie Wheeler that people may not know, or the fun fact is she voiced Steelheart. She was Janice in Friends, which is probably her most well-known part. And a lot of people watch Friends. Maybe you've watched Friends and Silverhawks and never made the connection, but now you have. That is today's random trivia fact that has nothing to do with toys. So overall, Steelheart is not as good as the others. That lack of a waist joint, the lack of the neck movement on most of the heads, just kind of a bummer. Overall, I like the character, and so I like the figure, but she does feel like the weakest of the bunch. Though I will say she's a lot sturdier than Steel Will, her brother, because she doesn't have like the weird clear joint things that he did. So that's a good positive overall. So here's all the Wave 1 and 2 Silverhawks together. These are the first 4 we've gotten. This is most of the main team from the start of the show, minus Stargazer and Copper Kid. Now, the next wave, Wave 3, will contain Stargazer as well as Hotwing. And then the waves after that, we have confirmed a Wave 4 and a 5. Copper Kid, it sounds like, will be coming with a vehicle, which is really cool. And we are still waiting to hear about Flashback, Moonstriker, and Condor. But with 2 more waves coming, that should be no problem at all. And then here's everybody with their wingsuits, as well as their birds that I really should have had out in the last shot. But you can see, they got kind of a nice cohesion to them. Of course, Bluegrass over here is like, I like flying the ship. So, he doesn't have wings, but it's nice to see. Next up, we have Buzzsaw, part of Monstar's mob. So you can see the Monstar logo on the front and the red Silverhawks logo on the back. Pulling this off, boom, there he is. He is pretty massive. We will do, of course, a size comparison, but just box-wise, here's a normal Silverhawks Ultimates box. You got his artwork and the bio. Buzzsaw, Limbo Mob Henchman. Buzzsaw is a completely robotic but independently sentient war machine with multiple razor-sharp circular saw cutting blades on his body that can be used as projectile weapons. He speaks with a high-pitched metallic voice. Buzzsaw is used as one of the Limbo Mob's muscle henchmen, adding power to whatever crime is being performed or protect a more specialized member of the mob. Buzzsaw's striking appearance and weapons makes him more limited in his roles and less adept at other kinds of missions. So let's take a look at the big old Buzzsaw. Here is Buzzsaw. Now Buzzsaw, first of all, the original toy was green. Yes, in the show he was this yellow gold. So this is accurate to the show. Before anybody's going, why isn't he green? Because only the toy was green. And then second of all, he's a $55 figure, same price as Quicksilver. He is so much bigger. He is like absolutely massive. Like they didn't upcharge him from the base price. That's also because while he comes with accessories, this is a lot more limited than the Silverhawks parts count wise. But he's just huge. I just wanted to get the size comparison out of the way here. Buzzsaw is massive. All right, first things first, let's look at his head sculpt because I love this head sculpt. It's a perfect encapsulation of Buzzsaw from the series. He's got that really like angry look to it, the crazy mouth, and then he's also got like the Buzzsaw on the top of his head. That one doesn't rotate. More on that in a bit. It does have actual joint. It's not just left and right. It is a little bit ball jointed in there, which is really cool. You can see he's got Buzzsaws in both shoulders, and they both spin. They don't spin super free. Like, you gotta kind of have to, like, especially this one, you have to kind of keep pushing. This one freely spins a little bit better, but they still do spin. Coming down here, you've got kind of the ripcord thing where you'd pull this to get the buzzsaw spinning, which is really cool. And again, we have accessories for that as well. In general, he is kind of a, you know, flatter yellow colors, yellow gold mixture here, which is pretty good. He's, you know, pretty basic from the back. But then, of course, we have his arms here with the buzzsaws, and these spin really well. So you got that one there, and then this one on this side. So I love that we have spinning buzzsaws on this guy. I also do love like little details, like the little vents back here. Just brings the whole look together. In general, though, he is very chunky, but he does not fall over. I have had some Ninja Turtles figures that are larger from Super 7, and they have trouble standing. This guy, he's going to shift, but not fall flat on his face, which is really impressive. You can see I'm moving the table, and he's just sliding on it. He is solid. Love to see that. That was probably my biggest concern with him and Monstar. Now, articulation-wise, you're probably wondering if he's got like anything going on here, right? He does look a little stock. Well, let's take a look. So like I mentioned, the head, ball joints. These shoulders rotate, but they're very tight. They do rotate up and down. They are ball jointed, so they do get a little bit of in and out, a little bit front and back. You do have a bicep swivel. This is a weird little system here where you have a pivot and then an additional bend. So if you wanted to have like a normal elbow bend, you just rotate it in place, boom, elbow bend. But if you want that clean look, you got to keep it rotated like that. This also rotates. It is supposed to pivot in and out or up and down. I just don't like messing with it too much because we'll talk about the swappable hands. Freaking crazy action figure already. So you got that going on. Legs are pretty standard. You got cut waist. Let's get the arm out of the way. Hips that move out, the farthest of any Super 7 figure I've ever seen. Forward, back, swivel, knee bend, then a slight adjustment there, and then an ankle pivot left and right, forward and back. So he's got pretty good range. Like, you can actually get him into some actual dynamic posing options, which is a little zany considering, you know, like his whole design. But you can pose him. Like, you will start to throw off his balance. He does work, you know, of course, standing straight up and down better, but you can get him and do some crazy dynamic poses. Now, like I said, he is actually not lacking in accessories. What's neat is that he actually does feature a multiple swap out parts. So let's start with his heads, because yes, he does come with multiple heads. By the way, if you're wondering to get the head off, I kind of just wince through the pain of the buzzsaw on the top of his head, and then just try to wiggle it off, because it's really hard to get off of him, simply because of the way it's like locked in there. Pretty good. There, you know, usually you got a little bit of a chin to pull up on with some figures. With this guy, it's going to take a lot of force. Once you get it off, you can swap the other heads on pretty easy. So his first alternate head doesn't seem that different, but when you take and compare, it has the same expression, but the blade is now in an animated spinning fashion, and it does move now, which is pretty cool. They got that going on. Yeah, they kept this to make him look more clean, but this does actually spin, and that is this open mouth head. And what's cool about this is because it's open mouth, there's more clearance, so they added a spinning buzzsaw. So while this head doesn't have the spinning buzzsaw, you can see they added it here. Even if it doesn't quite, you know, line up sculpting wise, like they wanted to make sure this looked more accurate, this is kind of fun to add an extra feature. Same with this, but I do love the kind of unhinged craziness factor there. Now, in another move of really hard to get out, if you pull on these carefully, but do so, you can get them out of here. And what you can do is swap in alternate rip cords. And the rip cords, they look like this. They stick out if you can plug it in correctly, unlike me. So you see, you got to stick it out with the handle like that. And then you can alternate and articulate the arm to actually fit the hand into the slot. And I'll do this better off camera to get the simulation of him pulling the cord to spin the buzzsaws. And there's our crazy buzzsaw man pulling the cords to get the buzzsaw spinning, so you can kind of play around with that and have fun. So his normal fingers are closer together like this, and then he's got an alternate set. There's an alternate set here to go alongside the set there of fingers that are more splayed out in a blocky formation. Now you're starting to see why I put the crazy head on him. Yeah, so he's got this Gatling gun looking thing. It slots into his fingers and then it rests on his arm. And I just love that a man that has buzzsaws for hands still is like, yeah, I need firepower on top of that. Looks amazing. However, that's not his only wow, my finger got really red from swapping parts. That is not the only option for firepower. So you can see when you pull the hand socket out of there, which is tricky. I didn't want to do it on camera because I don't want to break it, but you just kind of need to squeeze, pull, maybe you use a little heat if it's not going. But then you can stick this in, make sure you line it up, and then pop it in to the wrist joint. Oh, this is what happens when I try to do it on camera. Boom, there it is. He's got a cannon hand. Just because this guy, he's not satisfied with the buzzsaws. He's like, no, I need firepower. I can't throw my buzzsaws. I'm going to make sure to blast Silverhawks out of the sky. So you can see we got the cannon arm. It just goes in there super clean, super nice and neat. I love the extra like detail, like the line running through it. Boom. Cannon arm in one hand, Gatling gun in the other, buzzsaws all around. I love this guy. Now, one minor quibble, the guns, this one's not too bad. This one does weigh down his arm a bit, so it kind of has a tendency to go there. Not too bad, all things considered. This is Shreddator, which is just so perfect. This is the perfect companion for Buzzsaw. As you can see, Shreddator is a bird. He's got kind of mechanical design to him. Now, unlike the others, he actually just folds up instead of having like a perched figure and an unperched figure like the others, where they come with two birds each. This is simply, you just articulate his wings out. And that's probably because his design is pretty simplified, all things considered, and his wings fold like this, as opposed to having to kind of fold in on themselves. And then to top it all off, he doesn't actually articulate, I don't think. I think, the head rotates. Top it all off, he has a tiny little buzzsaw on his head, which does spin. This is like one of my favorite figures ever. I love that this is just like the little, like, saw blade bird from death. It's just a little side piece to the rest of it. Now for voice actor size comparison, Buzzsaw was apparently played by Larry Kenney, who voiced Lion-O and Jackalman on Thundercats, which you can see, this is his largest role. Okay, it's the one that had the least amount of dialogue, but it was his biggest role, which also isn't notable, but you get the joke, right? Am I making the pun? My goodness, he makes Steel Will look tiny. So, like, Buzzsaw is just amazing. There is no better bang for your buck from any Super 7 figure I've seen, I gotta say. Some of the Turtle ones are great, but in terms of, like, all the features and functionality, the size, the overall detail, the fact that this is a wacky design, if you're just like, what Silverhawks figure is the best for the price they sell them at, it's this guy. 100%, 110%. Buzzsaw is like the best price value I think I've seen on a Super 7 figure, and in particular with the Silverhawks line, this is definitely 100% like the best value. So if you're just going to get one, if you're just going to get one figure from this whole line, make it Buzzsaw, because it's just so much fun. And lastly, we have Monstar's armored form. We got the non-transform Monstar in Wave 1. So here we have, or Wave 2, and then here we have the armored Monstar in Wave 1. Looking absolutely gigantic. Once again, next to a standard Silverhawks Ultimate, he's just huge. But then more specifically, he actually has the same size box as Buzzsaw here, though Monstar is quite larger because he is taking up as much of this box as possible. Very excited to take a look at this guy. On the back here, Monstar, leader of the Limbo Mob. Monstar is the head of the Limbo Mob and functions as the local criminal kingpin. He has been around Limbo for over 300 years. He also has above normal strength, but when endowed with the light of Limbo's Moonstar, Monstar's body transformed is entirely covered in or converted to robotic armor. So what is it? Is it he is covered in robotic armor or converted to robotic armor? You're telling a bio, not posing a question. Anyways, regardless. His strength is now many times greater than his normal state. He has jets in his elbows that he can use to fly through space or fire red energy blasts. His most dangerous ability is the Starlight Blast, come from what would normally be his eye patch. He has a personal vendetta against Stargazer and all who align themselves with the Silverhawks. So let's take a look at the big, big, big bad of Silverhawks. Here is the might, the menace, the muscle of Monstar. He is really, really, really big. This guy, just for fair warning, he is $85, so he's $30 more than a normal figure. You can see that I am sort of reaching, because in order to get his entire height in view, he's got to be like this far back, and I don't even know if I got the point of his head up there. Let's just get the main size comparison out of the way right away. Here's Quicksilver. This guy is massive, big, huge, tall, wide, chunky, more stable than Quicksilver is. Honestly, I'm actually pretty impressed. Just like with Buzzsaw, I was like worried about Monstar like tipping. I think he has a little bit more of a potential to tip because he has ankle joints that are smaller than Buzzsaw's. Like you can see he's tipped a little bit there. But if you got him in a stable pose, he's going to stay. Like his joints are designed in a way that, you know, you can see there is some slight lean to him. But if you lean him back a bit, you know, rotate the legs a little bit, you're going to be fine. Now, of course, he's huge, so we're just going to have to, like, readjust camera angles and get a good look at him. This is, of course, the armored form of Monstar. We looked at the non-armored form back in Wave 2, which is weird to say since this is Wave 1. Paint-wise, on mine, there is a couple little scraps of black plastic here and just some other, like, minor mishaps. Also on mine, you can see that there's this, like, etched design in the elbow. On this one, it's not as prominent, so I think my elbow's backwards, like the actual inner joint. I'm not going to try to fix that. I'm not worried about it, but, you know, just something to point out. There's a little bit of mold flash here, which isn't too big of a deal. But otherwise, this is a big old sturdy figure. He's pretty sturdy. I was really worried because Super 7 hips and ankles can get really loose sometimes. So far, he seems fine. I guess we'll find out. You know, by the time Wave 3 comes out, I'll do like an update if his stability has changed. Fairly simple in design. He's got a lot of blockiness. This is kind of, you know, more, there's kind of like a little bit of a face going on, like with the teeth here sort of thing. But in general, I mean, he looks pretty good. This is definitely 100% the Monstar design. And yeah, he is supposed to be this big. Unlike other 80s cartoons where there was a sliding scale, like to characters, Silverhawks was done by a single animation studio, and they apparently had really good charts because he is always portrayed this large compared to the other characters, which is why I'm really glad Super 7 went all in to give this guy his full details and full size. Now, let's take a look at that articulation, because you're probably wondering how well does something this big pose. Well, he's got a ball-jointed neck, a little bit up and down, a little side to side, but mostly a left and right. It's totally fine. It fits for him. Shoulders move out. Shoulders don't quite 360. These shoulder pads do flex out of the way, so they do give some motion. You do have a 360 bicep, which is kind of neat because it is just kind of a flat block sort of thing. We'll demonstrate on this elbow because it works a little bit better. Elbow bends a little bit, not a lot because you have this back thruster thing, but it does bend a bit, swivel, and then you got a wrist swivel and a wrist that pivot in and out. The upper torso here rotates. It does not like side to side, it's just a straight cut. And then the lower torso part also rotates on a straight cut. Hips move out pretty good. Hips move forward. Thigh swivel here. Knee bend, you know, almost 90. Knee swivel there. Actually 2 points at the top and the bottom. Then ankles that pivot forward, back, left, and right. So if you're going to have him sit down in like the transformation throne, you can't get him to sit far enough here. So you got to rotate it out like this. And then that's why the knee bends and rotates at 2 positions so you can get the leg down. So you're having him sit, which I'll show in a moment. You're going to need to get him kind of like that so you can adjust his seating position. But of course, this guy is not without his accessory loadout. First things first, he does come with 2 fists for punching. He comes with 2 hands for pointing at things. He has these splayed out hands that are sort of reaching out to something. Then we have these splayed out hands with curled fingers. Now he also has a pair of gripped hands and his rifle. So here is the opposite grip hand that he does come with. I'm going to use the sort of clawed hand there. This is just insane because he has this giant rifle that he sometimes just shoots at a Silverhawk or somebody. It's kind of his iconic weapon, but it is just absolutely massive, on top of the fact that he is absolutely massive. Now, as for his other accessories, they're all effect-based. So you see he's got this thruster here. Well, it's also a blaster, so he can elbow blast at the Silverhawk from whatever angle he wants. You get 2 different effects that plug in to there. Pretty nice and easy, so you can't get those laser elbow effects. So while his normal mode of transport is this giant space squid that I doubt we'll ever see in this line because of how large Monstar is, when he's floating around in space without it, he has thrusters. So the elbow, I keep want to call them shoulder cannons, the elbow blasters also have thrusters, so they give you alternate effects to show the thrusters for like him flying through space, like trying to get the Silverhawks when he doesn't have his space squid. Now he does come with an alternate head, but since he doesn't emote in this form, it's the same exact expression. There's just one difference where the eye isn't there and there's a slot. And that slot is for the star eye beam effect. Mine's a little warped. I'm probably going to fix that later. But this was one of the early episodes when I realized how big Monstar was when he transformed inside of like a tunnel, and he was just like having to hunch over. He was like half sitting down, and then he was just blasting the Silverhawks with his eye laser. So this is very cool. But you can see it's got the star effect blasting off the front. And if you are wondering how the heck do you get this head off of here, my best recommendation is to just come up under the main 2 spikes and then just pull. That way you don't accidentally impale yourself. His last major accessory is the flying version of Armored Sky Shadow. So Sky Shadow is Monstar's equivalent to Tallyhawk. He is the evil bird for him. The actual pivoting blasters here pivot. There's no movement in the legs or the head, but the wings do fold forwards. It's got kind of that kind of pincer action to them. Pretty cool. If you may recall from the previous video, there was the actual like flesh version of Sky Shadow, his like original form, and then here's his armored form, and then also the other Monstar did come with the closed up collapsed version. My guess is this wasn't included with him in the big armored Monstar because the budget was already strained as is. But it's nice to see all the different forms of Sky Shadow. So here's the Super 7 Ultimates Monstar with the one and only Kenner vintage Silverhawks figure I have, Monstar. This is just so much better. I mean, there's an appeal and charm to the original Kenner figures. I mean, this Monstar in particular has like this, you know, Power Rangers Automorphin style gimmick where you have like the untransformed head here, and then you squeeze his legs and he gets his like transformed head. I don't have the front chest panel or anything. But this guy was cool. You know, he worked for the time. But if we're going into this new line, we have a properly gigantically scaled Monstar to go with our Silverhawks. And as we can see here, Monstar, the armored form is way bigger. And it should be. This is the proper scale, I think, for the first time in any Silverhawks toys. We actually got a properly scaled Monstar, which is just excellent. So as advertised and promised, he does fit in the Transformation Chamber Throne that was released alongside the Wave 2 Monstar. He fits. He totally fits. They made this chair big enough for him, which is just absolutely insane. So if you guys remember, I was pretty impressed by the size of ever-living Mumm-Ra. Monstar just blows him out of the water. This is, from what I can tell, proper scale to everything we saw in the show. Monstar was always consistently this large in his armored form. So seeing it next to Mumm-Ra is crazy, because Mumm-Ra ever-living is big, and he is, like, intimidating in his show. But if he ever went up against Monstar, if they ever got in a fight, Monstar's got him in the sheer size department, that's for sure. But Ancient Spirits of Evil, Moonstar of Limbo, I guess I'd have to find out which power was stronger. But holy cow, the actual scale and just the awesomeness of having both forms of Mumm-Ra, both forms of Monstar. This is a dream come true. So is Armored Monstar worth the $85 price tag? For me, heck yeah. Totally. I love it. This is like super duper fun. I think Buzzsaw is more fun, but the iconicism of Monstar for me, totally worth it. I love the size, the scale, I love things like Sky Shadow, I love all the accessory options, the rifle. I'm in. I'm totally sold on this thing. I have like no reservations about it. It's also stable. Like, he's posed, he ain't going anywhere. I mean, Sky Shadow's dancing all over even Sky Shadow leveled out. I'm very happy with how sturdy he is. So hopefully he holds up over time, but in general, I'd say it's worth it if you are a Silverhawks fan, if you love the character. If it's a casual pickup, maybe not, but definitely feels like he was worth the extra money for sure. So here's our Limbo Mob update. Looking great. Everybody's gigantic. Windhammer just seems a little small, but look at that. You know, he's still got the bigness to him. Just love the scale on these figures. You normally see how Armored Monstar is bigger than Buzzsaw. In general, we are going to get 2 more mob members in Wave 3 with Molecular and Mumbo Jumbo, and that leaves Yes Man, Hardware, Melodia, and Poker Face for the main mob members. Maybe we could get Time Stopper, Zero the Memory Thief, but of the main ones, there's still 4 remaining, so we should hopefully see those in Waves 4 and 5. So here's all our Silverhawks figures so far from the first 2 waves. We've got, I'd say, roughly the first, like, you know, just over a third of the main cast. We, of course, have 4 characters from the Limbo Mob, 4 Silverhawks. The overall plan, I think, is to do 5 waves. They said there is a Wave 4 and 5 coming. I think that in those 5 waves, we'll get all the main characters, and that'll be it for this line. I don't see this one going into, like, the one-off random appearance characters. It's going to be all the Silverhawks, all the main mob members, and I'm totally cool with that. The fact this line even exists is amazing. Now, here's the bad news. Wave 3 isn't coming out till March of next year. It's currently set for March of next year. Whatever's going on with production stuff, I'm just used to it at this point. It's going to take a while to get through the last 3 waves, 3, 4, and 5. but I will be reviewing them, so you want to hit subscribe and the notification bell. There will be plenty of other videos in the meantime. If you're here only for Silverhawks, I apologize. I can't do anything about it. There's like nothing else to cover, but check out the other videos on the channel. There will be hopefully Thundercats in between now and March. Are kind of done with the Silverhawks for this year, but I will hopefully be reviewing those in March, and hopefully they don't get pushed any further than that. Also hit the like button, leave a comment down below, tell me your favorite Silverhawks character, or ask any questions you have about these figures in general. Also be sure to check out my live streams Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern here on this YouTube channel. I'll talk about Silverhawks when it comes up, but I talk about a lot of cool stuff. Also be sure to check out my awesome graphic designer on Twitter, DarkClaw643. You can find HeroClub at hero-club.com for geek news and more. And until next time, this is Sandout saying goodbye.